at a museum called the Downtown Public Library, viewing one of the most recognizable pieces of Western art, Edvard Munch's The Scream.
Yes, and as we're looking at this, it's a very interesting, chaotic scene. We see a sort of warped perspective, a sky filled with lots of bright swirling oranges and reds, and water and land that are black, blue, and green. There is a man standing on the bridge with his mouth dropped and his hands clasped around his ears. While the man has curved lines and elongated features reminiscent of the humanistic style, the two figures standing behind him are dark and rigid, matching the straight lines of the bridge they are standing on. The background is dissolving into chaos, yet the man in the center is the only one who seems to notice. Because of this, most would say it looks like he is the one screaming.
However, upon further examination of the painting, you'll realize that the man is actually reacting to a scream. His eyes are wide with horror. His face is extremely pale, nearly white. He looks terrified.
Yes, interestingly enough, this man in the painting is a representation of Munch's struggles with anxiety throughout his life, and depicts an inner psychological status rather than just external reality. Moreover, some people believe that this man could be a self-portrait.
In fact, Munch recalled an experience of his which inspired the painting. I was walking along the road with two friends. The sun went down. I felt a gust of melancholy. Suddenly, the sky turned a bloody red. I stopped, leaning against the railing, tired to death. As the flaming skies hung like blood and sword over the black-blue fjord and the city, my friends went on. I stood there trembling with anxiety, and I felt a vast, infinite scream through nature.
He used this painting as a way of processing this experience. Yet it begs the question, how do you depict a scene like that?
It's a visual depiction of sound and motion. Because of this synesthetic, sense-focused approach that doesn't try to accurately depict reality, this piece is regarded as a key work of the Symbolist movement and a foundational inspiration for the Expressionist movement. In the time between Munch's birth in Norway in 1863 and before the First World War in 1914, European cities were going through fabulous changes with the Industrial Revolution and ensuing economic shifts. This change was occurring at a rapid rate, which caused a lot of anxiety among the common people. During this tumultuous period, Edvard was exposed to a lot of personal tragedy, losing his mother and sister to tuberculosis, watching his father and grandfather suffer from depression, and seeing his older sister deal with schizophrenia, and losing his only brother to pneumonia.
That's right. All this loss and sadness, mixed with him often being sick himself, led him to art as a way to escape and to stay occupied. Much of his early work was grounded in realism until 1884, when he joined Christiana's Bohemian Circle, led by Hans Jaeger, a Norwegian philosopher, writer, and anarchist political activist, who encouraged Munch to reject religion, break principles and morals, and move away from realism to instead express his own emotional state.
After this, Munch would take a trip to Paris in 1885 to see the revolutionary work of Impressionists like Gauguin, Van Gogh, and Toulouse-Lautrec. Their use of color and blurry, soft form would be a huge inspiration for his later work.
In fact, not much time after this, Vincent van Gogh would paint Starry Night, influencing Munch with his expressive and emotional brushwork and color usage. Munch related to Van Gogh's use of art as an emotional outlet and found himself inspired by his impressionistic style. All the other impressionist art that he was consuming also inspired him to create art, drawing from his own psyche.
But when he was invited to Berlin to share his new art, his insights were not warmly welcomed.
The Germans who he showed his work to found his work too raw and brutal and considered it unfinished when compared to their work, causing his art show to be shut down after only a week. Though this would normally be upsetting, Munch was excited at the opportunity to spread the word of his art through scandal, making him an overnight sensation.
At this point, we can see his work move away from being one image to being a series of works telling a story. In 1892, he began working on his series The Frieze of Life, which was meant to be a visual expression of life, love, and death. The series started as 6 works, but grew to 22, with The Scream being one of them.
Munch made many copies of his paintings, so that if he were to ever sell them, the story wouldn't be broken up.
Although the painting looks like it could have been made very quickly, Munch worked hard to finally land on this result. Even at the last second, he changed his mind, as you can see on the back of a sketch of another attempt. There are 4 finished original copies of the Scream. The first painting, done in pastel, tempera, and oil on cardboard, 2 pastel versions, and a final tempera painting. He used cardboard both because he couldn't afford expensive materials at first, but also because it complemented his art style. He wanted the viewer to see the process through his materials.
In 1994, after it was stolen in bright daylight in front of many people, it was returned and immediately restored but Munch would have preferred to have left it damaged to show its ongoing life.
With its focus on the emotional and mental state of Munch and its roots in Impressionism, this piece not only represents the artist, but a common experience of humanity, the fear felt in an unfamiliar situation.